Cleopatra, a name that echoes through history, wrapped in myths, glamour, and tragedy. But the true story of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt, is far more fascinating than the legends we often hear. She was born in 69 BC in the thriving city of Alexandria, a dazzling cultural and intellectual center of the ancient world. Founded by Alexander the Great, Alexandria was home to the famous Library of Alexandria, the largest and most significant library of the ancient era. Cleopatra grew up surrounded by scholars, mathematicians, philosophers, and scientists. Knowledge flowed in the air she breathed. Though she ruled Egypt, Cleopatra was not Egyptian by blood. She was a descendant of Ptolemy the Third Soter, one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals. After Alexander's death, his empire fractured and Ptolemy seized Egypt, founding the Ptolemaic dynasty. For nearly 300 years, Cleopatra's ancestors ruled Egypt, but they clung fiercely to their Greek roots, refusing to even learn the Egyptian language. Cleopatra, however, was different. She became the first ruler of her line to fully embrace Egypt, its customs, its religion, and most importantly, its people. Growing up in the royal palace, Cleopatra was surrounded by danger. The Ptolemies were infamous for deadly rivalries and power struggles. Brothers and sisters often turned against each other. It was common for family members to be imprisoned, exiled, or murdered in the pursuit of power. Cleopatra learned early that survival was not guaranteed by birthright. It had to be earned. From a young age, Cleopatra set herself apart. She immersed herself in rigorous studies. She was fluent in Egyptian, Greek, and reportedly spoke 7 other languages, including Hebrew, Arabic, and even the language of the troglodytes, a mysterious people living along the Red Sea. Her command of languages made her a rare and powerful figure, able to communicate directly with neighboring rulers without relying on interpreters, a huge diplomatic advantage. Beyond languages, Cleopatra was a skilled orator, trained in the art of persuasive speech. Roman historians, even those hostile to her, grudgingly admitted she had a magnetic presence, a voice that could captivate any audience. She was also deeply educated in science, medicine, and philosophy. Some ancient accounts even claim she wrote several scholarly works on medicine and pharmacology. When her father, Ptolemy the 12th Auletes, died in 51 BC, Cleopatra, around 18 years old, ascended the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy the 13th, who was about 10 years old. Egyptian tradition dictated that siblings marry to legitimize their joint rule, but Cleopatra had no intention of being overshadowed. She quickly moved to assert herself as the true power behind the throne. However, her brother's advisors grew resentful and orchestrated a coup against her. Cleopatra was forced into exile, fleeing Alexandria and gathering an army in Syria to reclaim her throne. For months, she plotted her return, waiting for the perfect moment. That moment came when Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria in pursuit of his rival, Pompey. Cleopatra knew she needed to win Caesar's favor. According to legend, she had herself smuggled into the palace rolled up inside a carpet or bedding sack. When unfurled before Caesar, Cleopatra's dramatic entrance stunned him. But it was her wit, intelligence, and boldness that truly captured his attention. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra waged a brutal civil war against her brother. After months of fierce fighting, Ptolemy the 13th drowned in the Nile while trying to flee a decisive battle. Cleopatra was restored to the throne, now ruling alongside another younger brother, Ptolemy the 14th, though she was clearly the dominant ruler. Cleopatra and Caesar became lovers, and she bore him a son, Caesarion, whose full name was Ptolemy the 15th Philopator Caesar. Cleopatra declared Caesarion as her co-ruler, solidifying her dynasty's continuation. In 46 BC, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with Caesar, living there in a grand villa outside the city. Her presence caused immense controversy. To many Romans, she embodied the feared exoticism of the East. Statues of her were erected in the temple of Venus Genetrix, a sign of how deeply Caesar was intertwined with her. But Cleopatra's fortunes changed abruptly when Caesar was assassinated on the Ides of March in 44 BC. Fearing for her safety, Cleopatra fled back to Egypt, where she quietly removed her brother from power, possibly orchestrating his death, and elevated her young son Caesarion as her sole co-ruler. In the chaotic aftermath of Caesar's death, Cleopatra aligned herself with Mark Antony, one of Caesar's closest allies. Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus, expecting a show of loyalty. Cleopatra's response was legendary. She sailed up the Cydnus River in a magnificent barge adorned with purple sails, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite. The sight was breathtaking. Antony, a man known for his excesses and love of spectacle, was immediately captivated. Their political alliance blossomed into a deep personal relationship. Antony and Cleopatra became inseparable, spending winters together in Alexandria. They even formed a drinking society known as the Inimitable Livers, indulging in feasts, games, and elaborate pranks on the citizens. Antony eventually married Cleopatra, though he was already married to Octavia, the sister of his rival Octavian. This blatant insult to Octavian's family gave Octavian the perfect excuse to launch a propaganda war against Antony and Cleopatra, painting them as decadent traitors to Roman values. Tensions exploded into open conflict. In 31 BC, at the Battle of Actium, Octavian's fleet faced Antony and Cleopatra's forces. Poor planning, divided command, and disease ravaged Antony's fleet. Cleopatra, realizing the battle was lost, led her ships in a retreat. Antony followed, abandoning the fight. Back in Egypt, their situation grew hopeless. Octavian invaded. Facing inevitable capture, Antony fell on his sword after mistakenly hearing Cleopatra was already dead. Gravely wounded, he was brought to Cleopatra's hiding place, where he died in her arms. Cleopatra tried to negotiate with Octavian, but realizing he intended to parade her through Rome as a trophy, she chose death over humiliation. According to tradition, she had a poisonous asp smuggled into her mausoleum and allowed it to bite her. However, Roman historians suggest other theories, including that she poisoned herself using a toxic ointment or a hidden hairpin. Cleopatra died at 39 years old. Caesarion was soon captured and killed on Octavian's orders, ending the line of Egyptian pharaohs forever. Egypt became a Roman province, and Octavian, soon to be Augustus, became Rome's first emperor. Cleopatra's life did not end with her death. Over the centuries, she has been depicted as everything from a monstrous seductress to a romantic heroine. Roman historians, eager to tarnish her image, emphasized her sexuality and painted her as a dangerous foreign temptress. Later writers like Shakespeare reimagined her as a tragic figure doomed by love. In truth, Cleopatra was far more than either caricature. She was a political genius who navigated one of the most dangerous periods in world history. She understood the power of image, of spectacle, of myth, and she used it masterfully to her advantage. She ruled Egypt during its final days of independence, balancing internal strife, external threats, and the overwhelming tide of Roman ambition. Her intellect, determination, and charisma were her greatest weapons. Cleopatra was not simply the last pharaoh of Egypt. She was the living embodiment of a civilization's end, and of the enduring human struggle for power, survival, and legacy. Her story reminds us that history is often written by the victors. But legends, the truly powerful ones, are kept alive by the fascination of generations to come. And Cleopatra's legend, more than 2,000 years later, still burns as brightly as ever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through Cleopatra's remarkable life, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the real stories behind history's greatest figures. See you in the next video.